So I wanted to welcome you here. Just want to give a shout out to our sponsors. Expert Services does all my HVAC and plumbing and for 5 years, and they donate the $5,000. So I want to give them a really good shout out. And then CoStar has sponsored our breakfast. So she will be here right before it's over, and she would like to just introduce you. So CoStar, LoopNet, I'm sure you guys have been on that recently. So very proud of that. Kendra helped us get that sponsored. Thank you, ma'am. I want to introduce all of our judges. They are all CPMs, and they have with IREM, and they are all very, very well revered in the commercial property management. I'm going to start with you, Adam. You want to give a little shout out about yourself?
Sure. My name's Adam Bernhardt. I'm with JLL as a group manager, meaning I support other managers and ownerships that own the properties. I've been in commercial real estate, mostly office, for 28 plus years. That's me.
Rich Elam, I came into commercial real estate in 1995, working in various companies, large companies, small companies, mostly office like Adam, but I have experience in retail and staying away from multifamily and industrial. So yeah, I've been in a little over 30 years.
Good morning. My name is Dwayne Reddick, and my company is Stripe Commercial Real Estate Services. And my company's been in business for over 20 years now, and I've been in commercial real estate for probably over 25, 30 years now, longer than a pretty long time. But my background is managing more commercial high-rise office buildings.
Good morning, my name is Morgan Newley. I am the Vice President of Property Management with Stream Realty Partners here in Dallas. I oversee our industrial property management platform for DFW. So we manage about 66 million square feet of industrial space. And I've been in the business not quite as long as these guys, but we'll say 20 years.
Rounded.
Yeah.
I'm Greg Granger. I'm the principal with Younger Partners. Been in the business probably as long as most everyone here except Rich. So Rich is probably the only one that beat me. We have office, industrial, retail, no apartments. So staying away from multifamily. Kind of designation junkie. I'm a CPM, RPA, CCIM, and have stopped after that because it kept falling off the cards. So we're excited to see what y'all are presenting today.
Excited. Do y'all have any questions before we begin? All right. So we're gonna all obviously enjoy the lobby, and there's coffee and donuts back there if you want to grab that on your way out. UNT is first.
Good morning, y'all. We appreciate all of you guys being here today. Hope y'all are doing well. Thank you so much for taking time on your day to hear what we have to say today. My name is Sachin Katragayev. We are all from the University of North Texas, and we'll be presenting to you today about our property. This is Gage Morris. He's going to be giving you guys a lot more about our site and property analysis. This is Aiden Nelson. He's one of our coordinators. This is Trevor Chapman. He's going to tell you guys a lot more about leasing. And this is Michael McConaughey. He's going to tell you guys a lot more about our finances and our coordinations as well. So we are Eagle Commercial Incorporated. We're a property management firm in the Dallas-Fort Worth region. We have a long track record of success and many customers in the area, and we're going to be telling you guys a lot more about our property and what each possible property can add to you guys for profit maximization and possible value. So as you guys know, this is located on 109th Street in Grand Prairie, Texas. It's about right on the border of Arlington and Texas, and Arlington and Grand Prairie in the city limits. It is located in Grand Prairie, though. It is about 4.25 acres. It's lots of property space on it. The building size, to be exact, is about 93,079 square feet, and it is light industrial. It was built a long time ago in the late 1960s, and it has been renovated recently in the year 2009. So right next to our property, we have our nearby highways. We have Interstate 30, and we also have Highway 360, busy highways. So any industrial or any daily operations of distribution, this would be a great place for this property. We have many highways where we can get you in and out effectively and efficiently, and it's located right on Avenue J on the street in Grand Prairie, Texas. Occupancy, this building is currently vacant. It does suffer from something we call persistent vacancy. It has been vacant for some time. As we go through this, we're going to tell you guys about ways where we can ease this transition and we can make it to where it can have some value to you guys as well. It's in good to fair condition. It has been well maintained. We would expect in the future years that it does need a few more repairs. And in the year 2020, they did spend about $249,000 in repairs. And in the future, we do expect that a few more lots will be put in for it to get to the value that we expect it to be at. So I'm going to pass this on over to Gage now. He's going to tell you guys a lot more about site and property analysis.
So like he said, this property is located in Grand Prairie, but it is generally viewed as being in Arlington since it's right outside of the city limits. And this property is in a great location because it's right next to 3 major highways, so it's very quick to get to, with 360 being less than 10 minutes from the site. And this property has a lot of parking with 93 spaces, so it's perfect for a tenant with a lot of vehicles. It has water, sewer, and electric connected, and it's fairly flat. It's won't have very many problems with that. This building is concrete. It's got a huge parking lot. It's very easy to access, and they have a lot of ramps on the right side with a full double-sized ramp that's good for internal loading for any tenants that are doing distribution. This is a great picture that we got from one of our contacts of a previous tenant that was doing distribution, so you can kind of see how they would operate. It has about 8,000 square feet of office space, 3,000 square feet of climate-controlled warehouse space, which would be really good for a storage or distribution tenant, and it's got about 82,000 square feet of open warehouse. This property, as I said, is also in a great location because it's in the center of the Metroplex, and it is just south of DFW, so it'd be very easy to get to. Some key economic drivers in the area: for aerospace and defense, you have Bell, CAE, and PPG. For business services, you have DR Horton, GM Financial, and 2M Research. For distribution, UPS and FedEx are the big ones in the area. And there is a GM manufacturing center not too far from it, and there's multiple medical facilities in the area. For this, I'll hand it over to Aiden.
Hi, Brent. How are you doing today? All right. So just to get it started, I want to start something off that I want you guys to understand, and it's going to be a common theme throughout this. The supply is not indicative of the demand. That's a key thing I want you guys to understand. So getting up into it right away. So there's about 1.3 million square feet being added in this area, right? And of that, only about 700,000 square feet is actually being absorbed and actually being used, right? Compares over here, right here, when it was at the peak, 3.5 million of available space, and right over here, 3.1 million being used. Over there, you know, that's really interesting because it's way down from what it was at the peak, right? That was about 15.3% vacancy at its peak, and it's had a historical average of vacancy of 7% in the area. And the total vacancy rate, as you can see right here, 6.4%. Yeah, next slide, please. Now here, with the supply and the demand analysis, like I said, the supply, there's a lot of supply, but not as much demand. And the line that I want you guys to look over here is this vacancy rate, followed by the amount of deliveries and the absorption, right? Over here, in this current year, 23-24, there's a lot of available square foot, but not as much demand. The vacancy rates are very high. And the projection is to go lower. Vacancy rates will lower. Right here, the gold money line is this orange line, the specialized industry. So as you can see here, out of all the logistics, the flex, out of all the lines, the specialized line of a specialized tenant right? Not a basic tenant, not something, just a normal, industrial tenant. The specialized tenant is unique because it is the lowest of all. The vacancy rate is the trending down the lowest. Further. And for the market rent growth. So it hit a peak here of about 12%, right? And the growth rate here at its peak was, like I said, around 12%, but overall it's trending that it's a slow growth rate. It's a slow growing of the specialized and of all of these as well. So for the traffic counts, it's even though it's located by major highways and big visibility, the site and property specifically itself is not in complete visibility. It's not one of those properties that you'll be able to see, and if you're depending on it for visibility, it's not something that you can afford, that visibility is going to help you with. Further, it's, like I said, it's located by 3 traffic highways. There's a low traffic concentration around the subject property and significantly lower traffic counts than the other side of 360. I'm not going to hand it off to Trevor to speak about the further concept.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you've seen this property, you know that we were forced to get creative, and that's what we wanted to do. Something new that you might not have heard of before. So the concept tenant that we came up with is something close to salt box. So the best way to explain this is a company that we all know, Airbnb. So as we know, it's for homes. Short-term leases could be a night, could be a couple of nights. So what we want to do is why not use that for industrial? We didn't come up with this idea. This is a real idea. It's having success. There's some in Dallas, Atlanta, Washington, all around the nation. So the tenant annual income would be $2.4 million. And the whole concept is, instead of leasing it out for long term, as far as a year and plus, what we do is section off the building, and as you've seen, there's about 3 sections we can clearly divide this. We can have our leases for a month, 2 months, 6 months, when we couldn't lease it out for a year. So this allows customization, and good examples of this would be e-commerce. Or if it's a startup that just needs new supply, getting ground running, that's why we have the bays as well. If a company just needs to have a place to store things as well, or just take shipments in or ship things out. So this is an example of a couple offices around the nation, what it looked like. The next slide, please. So these pictures, these are real pictures of Saltbox. So what this shows is the customization of it. So you can have office spaces. Our whole job is to provide the space for it, provide a short-term lease, and whoever's the tenant is, they can customize it to whatever their need is, whether it be office spaces, desks, anything. The whole thing is customization and a short-term lease that they're not bound by a year-plus lease that they wouldn't be able to do otherwise. So now I'm going to pass it off to Michael.
Thank you, Trevor. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard about the property analysis. You've heard about everything about the property. Now I'm gonna get into the numbers. As of right now, the property, we're valuing the property at $4 million, and we're starting off at a $4 base rent and $2.50 for common area maintenance. Next slide, please. At our current value right now, at a $4 million, we are planning to add value through our tenant improvement. So we're giving tenants the opportunity to customize to make the area to fit their need. And through that, we're looking at year 5 to bring in a value of $8 million, which would bring our next slide to our returns for our investors who are in this property. Our returns for this property for our investors would be around $3 million and a 2.x equity multiple and a 20% average rate of return and a 17% IRR. So that's the recap of all the things that I just said. We understand this property is bad. It's in a complicated. It's in a weird location, but we know that Grand Prairie is growing, and we want to talk about the future of Grand Prairie. the city of Granbury recently approved a $2 billion mixed-use development. This development will bring about 8,000 multifamily units, 400,000 office space, and 500,000 square feet of retail in the future. So that's gonna bring a lot of people to Granbury. We don't wanna go to Dallas to utilize this kind of concept. So we have this concept in Granbury for our tenants to use it here. So instead of driving to Dallas on I-30, I know if you guys drive the I-30 in the morning or in the afternoon, it sucks, it's terrible, the traffic is bad. So we have this in Granbury. If you live in Arlington, you can drive to this property and you can utilize that space for whatever needs that you want to use. You want to use it for your office. You want to use it for your whatever business that we have. We have relationship with tenants and brokers who can bring us the people that can lease us the space. This space will be utilized to fit every kind of need that our tenants need. We have, like I mentioned, a track record of doing this successfully. And with that concludes our presentation. Thank you for your time. Questions?
I have one. So for Saltbox, does Saltbox sign a master lease for the property and then they sublease the individual users? Or are you saying the individual users will each have a lease and the ownership is responsible for finding and locating all of those users?
Yeah, so the owner will be the one that's leasing it to each individual. We're replicating the concept of Saltbox. We're not Saltbox, but this is just an example of someone that's doing this, that has proven that they are doing it successfully. So with our numbers and with what we've shown you here, we believe that this is a very good use of this property. It's the best and highest quality you can use for this property.
Okay, I may have missed it, so I apologize if I do, but what's your timeline going from the current vacancy to fully occupied?
So we're actually planning for a 6-month lease up. During that lease up period, we're actually doing our $1 million of tenant improvements that I mentioned previously. And that's through our, different tactics of bringing in, to taking brokers out for lunch, taking them for golfing, and then, connecting with them to bring their tenants to our building.
I had the same question, but I'm not quite sure that your timeline showed that lease-up period. The numbers didn't support that. I don't think. Can we see that again?
Yeah, we can go back to that. That's
Which slide?
There's a 5-year value increase.
so in year one, that's year 2025, and then this is year 2026, year 2027, and year 2028, year 2030. That's so as of right now, we're in 2024. That's our year 0. But in year one, we'll actually start at a $12 base rent for all the tenants that will be leasing the space.
$12.
That's including all the tenants. So that's the number that we coming up to for all the tenants that are going to be leasing out that space.
Didn't you show an earlier slide where it's at $4?
That's for our current present value.
Okay.
So as of right now, you got to value real estate, as you know, it's intrinsic value. You got to value it through income to replacement costs. So as of right now, we are using a $4 rent base rent for that property and $2.50 for maintenance, and we're layered in a 8.5% cap rate. So
is that $4 supported by the market?
yeah, that's supported by the market right now.
Did y'all do a market analysis? I don't think I saw that.
Yeah.
If you go back, can you go back? Keep going. Yep, keep going. 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 And right here, if you look at this, the market asking rent is lower, right? It's around 9 to 10 to 13 to some market total $9.65 a square foot. And with that, what we're trying to do is this concept, because it's short-term leases and it's not big long-term leases. That's why we're able to charge that $12, that higher above market rent, because of the short-term leases, and it's a shorter time frame, so we can charge more. And that's the whole idea of the short-term leases. We wanted to do that so we could charge more.
So what is your average occupancy that you're projecting for your rental income?
The average, the occupancy is around 75%, or 85% occupancy total.
Okay, so that's the average occupancy once you're stabilized?
Yep.
So on this salt box concept, you know, right now you got 3 suites, it's all industrial. And, now you looking to market that as office space? What type of space?
Yeah, so we're marketing it as your own customization. So like you were saying, there's 3 different parts of this building. It can be cubicles, office space. It could just be storage.
Yeah.
Some companies just need a short-term storage.
So if you're doing that, and right now it's all office space, you're looking to do short-term leases and everything, would you have to have, like, it almost to be like spec suites or something like that for people to move right in and everything? So would you have quite a bit of capital cost initially up front, or I mean, how would you determine what's going to be office, what's going to be storage? I mean, it's going to be built out based on demand, or what?
Yeah, so we're the shell. So it's going to be built out to whatever the tenant needs. So we can have our own layout, but why not just customize it to whatever tenant we have? Because we're, like I said, we're having short-term leases, we're changing a lot. So if we make something permanent and a different tenant wants something else, then we'll have to customize it. So why not just wait for the tenant, what their needs are, and then work off of that.
So if you got, just one last, so if you got short-term leases and you base it on, I mean, because it's going to change quite a bit. So sound like you got to have, if you want office, there's some office. If you want storage, there's storage. If you want this, because when tenants come in, if it's short-term, oh, I need a storage space for 6 months. Oh, I need office space for 6 months. Oh, I need this 6 months. But it seems like you're going to be ever changing. Would the tenant pay for all those changes, or?
Well, the buildings are already set up where there is office space already made, and then
Yeah,
there
7,000
is already
square feet.
storage space. So you wouldn't have to flip that very much. They would just take up a separate section of the building based on what they need.
Yeah, I think out of 100,000 square feet, it's like 7,000 square feet this office, or
8,000.
8,000 square feet of office.
So the whole thing is we're providing the space to whatever needs they have.
What's currently in the market is that the surrounding properties, like I said, there's persistent vacancy. What people are doing normally with long-term leases, it's not working, right? It says, there's a 6% occupancy rate, but, that's not us. We're 100% vacant, right? What's going on currently in the market is that, there's a lot of, there's not a lot of demand, but there's a lot of supply. So our whole concept was that, might as well make it short, do something drastically different in a specialized market, because it's not indicative. There's tons of properties in the current area in that Grand Prairie, in that section, that the properties themselves are just vacant, the persistent vacancy. So why not try something drastically different that can actually improve, the occupancy rate or the vacancy rate? So
I think to Dwayne's point, yes, that sounds like a good way to get traction and attention in a troubled market. But Dwayne points out there's an inherent risk of having to reshuffle. You're rebuilding that Airbnb for each special user every 3 months. And so that means increased costs. So did you do anything to mitigate the risk of having to, or what's the concept behind having to prevent from restacking the structure to meet what Adam wants versus what Dwayne wants versus what the next tenant wants?
Yeah, so that's the thing is we're just providing the space. So it's no cost to us. If someone wants to come in and put in thin cubicles, they can do that. If someone just wants to dump a bunch of storage in there, they can do that as well. So it's whatever they want. It's no cost to us. We're providing the space, we're providing the shell, we're providing the bays as well. And if they want to, like I said, add office space, storage, whatever they want, or just use the bays, they can do that as well.
Okay, how do you get to the space? I guess I'm trying to understand the concept. If we're adapting to each tenant user, and one is 3,000, another one's 4,000, how do we adapt those spaces to reflect those different tenant needs? You see, if we've got 85% occupancy and we have somebody leaving us 2,000 square feet, then we only have 2,000 square feet that we can market. And one of the things I was also curious about is your marketing plan. Who are you going to market this to? Because the broker community is not going to be very interested in signing 3-month leases and the commission being $200. And so how are we gonna market this to prospective users to fill up that 85%?
Yeah, to answer your question, we actually have we've thought about this a lot, and we actually have like signs, big billboard signs like you see them, they're pretty simple, easy to understand, that lead us straight to our website where you can find out all the information about what we're doing. And also, we have a track record of doing this. This is a proven concept that works. And to the point about the brokers, some of them that's getting started, they may just want to do something easy like that just because they know people and they can just bring them in and just get that, grab that little $500, $200 here and there. So that kind of answers that question.
So where's your marketing expense if you're doing billboards and others?
That's also put in the operating expenses. So our operating expenses was up there, and that's also built in there.
Yeah, but tenants are not gonna pay you for your advertising and marketing. If your nets are $250, then tenants are not gonna reimburse you for your advertising and marketing for your property. They'll pay the nets operating cost on the property. And another thought that I have is on configurability and having office tenants and having industrial tenants, storage, potentially manufacturing. The space is only partially air conditioned. So you only have 8,000 square feet, I think, or 13,000 square feet of conditioned space. So that's all that you could use for tenant occupancy. Have you thought about potentially converting it to an all box scenario? Is that part of your $1 million? And are you looking at conditioning the entire space so that it is ultimately configurable for various users? And then power distribution, I don't know if we thought about that for different tenants and how we're going to get power to them as well. And then restrooms, are they going to be a public amenity, or do you have individual restrooms for each and one of those users, which is obviously going to drive up your costs astronomically. So kind of I like the concept idea, but how does that work functionally? It seems hard to try to say we're going to change the space every 3 months. So everybody's talked about over here. And if you're doing kind of a suite type operation, then you're going to have a baseline of amenities for the users, restrooms, potentially, a coffee bar or something. If you have people in there, if you have product, it doesn't matter much. You still need restrooms. But how does that work within the soft box scenario? It's an interesting thought. I'm not discounting the thought. It's just, I think there's some things that if you're going to make it ultimately configurable, then is the 85% occupancy the right number, because you're going to be doing a lot of change in 3 months and 2 months to release and reconfigure. So if your spaces are down 2 months of every 3 and you achieve that rental, I think on your first year rental, you still have the same amount of rent income as you did year 2, even though you said there was 6 months lease ups, something you might want to think about in cash flow analysis as well.
2 questions I want to answer about that. We actually do end up increasing our rent in year 3 and 4 and 5 because of other things that's happening in the market. As of right now in the city of Grand Prairie, it's a $170 million development project called the Epic Central, and that project is around our property, and that's going to bring up the demand for that. So we're kind of just playing it safe right now to kind of testing it out year by year, and we believe that we can achieve that to the rest that we're asking for. And to answer the question about operating expenses, we are layering in recoverable and non-recoverable expenses, but they're all mixed together. But we are layering that expense in there that we're covering the expenses for the other stuff that tenants is not liable for. And for the question about people coming in and out of the property, think about like an office building. When you walk into an office building, you may have like a suite where it's open to everyone. It's like a balcony. So to answer your question, yes, you can. We have an entrance in that area where people can come in and grab coffee and chat and sit, and they don't have they're part of the tenant. Part of the tenant amenity is to have that area to maybe make a phone call, maybe have their lunch delivered there so they can eat it there. So it's just that area that we thought about that too as well.
What do you guys think about your concept? I mean, you got 3 spaces, like, I'm looking at space 100, it has let's just call it 9,000 square feet.
This will be the last question, I have to call Tom.
Okay,
But
okay,
yeah, go
office,
ahead.
and then, like, suite 100 would be office space or whatever, people that's looking for office space. Suite 130, since it's all industrial, maybe make that all storage. And then suite 160 would be whatever your other concept would, I mean, what's your guys' perception on that?
Yeah, I think having the variety of different types of spaces is good because it allows us to have different tenants. So as you know, when e-commerce blew up, they just needed places to ship things in and out through. So if it's just a short-term thing like that, they can just have a place that doesn't have to be have AC and just store certain things. And then you're right, if there's a more air-conditioned place, they can have office spaces if they need that as well.
Like a Spirit Halloween, right? Think of like there's something with the short-term lease Halloween season, maybe about a month long. They're going in just for the industrial space, and they're putting all their costumes all for the DFW area in that leasing, in that space, and that's a short-term lease. They don't have to pay for a full year out. They can just do it, and then it makes costumes more available to people in the immediate area.
And that's the fun part, finding out how to use the spaces right for each tenant, because you're going to get all different types of tenants. I mean, this is a real concept that's working, like I said, throughout the nation. So we can find a way to get a certain space for a certain tenant and make it work.
Well, I know Chrissy said that was the last question, but
I know.
I just want to thank you guys. It's,
We're getting to
you're out of the box thinking,
Hurry up.
we appreciate that.
Uh-huh.
We know that you have competing interests as college students.
Yes, sir.
And we can tell that you put a good amount of work into this, and I
Yes, sir.
appreciate it, yeah.
And
Thank you.
responses to some very difficult questions from experienced personnel were very good, so thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So Morgan, go ahead.
Thanks, Christine.
Yeah.
So we do all applaud your creativity. I think you guys really put in some effort to try to come up with a different approach, obviously in a struggling market. Just kind of listening to all the questions we have, what differentiates your concept from a self-storage facility?
So the fact that we can do other things as well. It doesn't have to just be self-storage. And the fact that we're doing short-term leases. So if someone only needs to store something for a month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, they can't do that with a regular, just self-storage. So what we're trying to do is make it to where they can just have a short-term lease that we can charge at much higher rates, to where if we have some sort of vacancy, it makes up for that.
And just want to add on to what Trevor said real quick. At the end of the day, an idea that y'all have might be different than the idea we have. Our main goal is to make it to where whatever idea y'all can have, you can move into this area, and we can fill that occupancy, and we don't have to no longer make this a vacant property.
And we're the only property in that area doing that. Like all the other ones, they have tenants in there. We do look to expanding on acquiring other sites that's already there to expand. With the demand growing, with the city of Grand Prairie growing, we'll look and get city incentives to also help us with that. City, they have a lot of programs that we can utilize in order to increase tax revenue. The city, they got to pay tax. Tax. Everybody loves tax. Not here in Texas, but my point is, that will definitely help, grow the city, help, bring in more jobs, bring in more people, and, have a good economy. So basically, that's the point.
The market, and I said it again, it's saturated, right? So doing something new, unique, and different, and I think it speaks volumes because it's just different. Hold everything that people are doing there, and it's still persistent vacancy.
My name is Andrew Nguyen. I am the project manager of Commercial Real Estate Consulting. Today we'll be going over 1170, 1180, 109th Street, and this is my team.
My name's Tommy. I'm the financial analyst.
I am Kiana. I am the property manager.
I'm Jacqueline, and I'll be your market analyst for this property.
I'm Franklin, and I'm doing marketing for this property.
So today we'll be going over, this is our sequence of subjects. So we'll go over the property side analysis first, and then the financial analysis with Sir Tommy. Third, the market analysis with Jacqueline. Fourth is demographics with Jacqueline as well. And then 5 and 6, analysis of alternatives and proposal will be going over with me. And 7, marketing plan with Mr. Franklin.
So hi again, I'm Kiana, and I will be going over the property and site analysis. This is the building we are presenting to you today. It is an industrial building built in 1968. It is in a prime location, north of I-30, east of 360, and right between Dallas and Fort Worth. It is an L-shaped building sanctioned into 3 suites and 2 offices, and currently they're all vacant. These are some of the materials used, and it is important to note that it is fully fenced with 93 parking spaces. It has been renovated in 2009, and capital improvements have been made in 2020. It is zoned as light industrial and can house light manufacturing and distribution. There is a river to the north, so any flooding doesn't concern our property. Upon our site visit, we took these exterior pictures to demonstrate there is no splash guard causing water to enter the foundation, causing cracks in the walls. The pavements were cracked, unnecessary vegetation grew around the building, and the brick itself is chipping, possibly from the water damage. And these are some of the pictures we took of the interior of the building. Again, we noticed water damage, patchwork on the ceiling that is falling, dented support beam, and these 2 pictures really demonstrate how extensive the foundational shift has been on the interior of the property, right here, and the crack on the wall as well. And now I will pass it off to Tommy to talk about the financial analysis. Thank you.
All right, so just if you'll go to the next slide, please. So this is our current finances, our P&L right here. So I broke it out into 4 columns: our year-to-date, our year-to-date annualized, and our expected annualized. So in the pro forma, our costs are going to be based on this expected annualized right here. However, I want to take your attention to the year-to-date annualized. If you'll notice, there's no rental income increase because we do not have tenants for this year, and that's reflected in your CAM recoverable income. And so this number right here, your total operating, your net operating income, this is going to be factored into our year 0 loss when we're calculating IRR later in the pro forma. So if we'll go to the next slide, I'll pass it off for the marketing analysis.
Hello, and thank you for giving me the time to talk about this property today. It is a great location in the industrial submarket of the Upper Great Southwest. One thing to note, it is one of the more established industrial submarkets in this area. And let us go to the next slide to talk about how it is performing. In our submarket life cycle, we're in phase 3, which means there are rising vacancies and new construction. Some of our new construction concludes the Wildlife Commerce Park. This is established this year. Although these units are very big, they do not directly compete with our property because they service a different kind of tenant that is more established, and they require a lot more space and ceiling height. Next slide. Here, I'll take you to more dynamics on how the property is doing overall in this market. Here, measured in orange in 2021, you see a lot of orange, very little blue. This means there is very little vacancy, and therefore it was a very strong period for them. But in 2022, 2023, there is a little bit of shift in that dynamic as you see more of that supply coming up, rising to those vacancy rates to 8%. Although, highlighted here, this is between the 4 to 10% average vacancy rate for the past 10 years. 2024, we continue to experience these fluctuations. And the start to note is our particular vacancy rate for our particular demographic of our property, built in 1960 to 1980. They're a higher vacancy rate, as I've noted, because a lot of these tenants are looking for newer spaces. That is what our presentation will be focusing on, is to how to improve that asset to maximize what we already have. And in addition to that, we have strong neck-to-neck relationships with this demand and supply. It is going to stabilize our market, and we're able to capture our returns faster as we go in the future. So that's important to capture this opportunity that we already have. Next slide. In addition to all this news I've given you, all this chaoticness, the market rents continue to increase for all sectors of each property type, as well as the Upper Great Southwest highlighted yellow, and this is the market for overall. The start here again is our asking rent for our particular property, it is still competitively below the market rents, which is we're able to leverage at a lot more in the future. Next slide. In addition to all this great news and possibilities I've given you, there are already some benefits to be in Grand Prairie. In less than 3 miles of our property, we already have a lot of shopping centers. We have very easy access to a healthcare center that has just been renovated, and affordable multifamily units that are $200 below the market rent average of $1,500. It is all connected to the very affordable, newly established public transportation services. Next slide. In addition to that, they have a very solid demographic that is fit for our industrial submarket. These total populations are in line with DDW standards, as well as to highlight how specialized they are with this graph I've constructed myself. These highlight how Grand Prairie has a larger proportion of their population working in these industries. And so therefore, it is a very established submarket. Next slide. To add on to how much Grand Prairie is a great environment to work and be in, I have a list of the types of improvements as well as the city awards that they got. 2 things I want to highlight. Some of these may be new to you. The ISO 1 status is the highest status that the fire department has given for fire prevention services, as well as the Gold Plus emergency medical services. This means they're able to take someone to the hospital successfully when there's an emergency medical situation 100% of the time. They have completed those for the last 8 years. And just to conclude how dynamic this market is, there are a lot of people that want to make progress in it with the number of applications, as well as the city is being processing those applications just in a very short period of time. Next slide. Lastly, this is to conclude our market analysis, of course, of our property analysis. 2 things you may notice is that there's 2 different types of numbers on our subject property. The first number, $7.75, is corresponding with the whole unit as a whole. And then the second number, $8.75, is just how much it would be asking for just if you lease one of the units. Last, and also to note here, you may have noticed, I have included this, although it is a different type of lease, it is still in line with the comparables I have brought you all today based on year built, as well as the amount of square footage of the property. So the last thing I would want to note is that although our property may have a higher vacancy rates like some of ours here, and subsequent ones, they also have a very big possibility of still maximizing that return. And therefore, we're going to highlight how we're going to approach that by first assessing the types of alternatives that we have for this property. Andrew, I'll hand it off to you.
Thank you for that transition. So next slide, please. So we'll be going over the analysis of alternatives. We divide it into 2 main categories. The first category is the extensive damage around the property. So we have foundation damage caused by poor irrigation and shifting soil, exterior facade damage from improper repairs, as well as water damage on the undercarriage of the roof deck. Our second category is outdated cosmetic and functional features. We believe that they undermine the overall appeal and operational efficiency of the building. Next slide, please. We'll go a little further into the details. Highlighted in light blue, this is where the major foundation damage is located. In green is where we have exterior facade damage, so this is where brick is peeling or deteriorating. In purple, we have water damage, so this is visible water damage on the undercarriage of the roof deck. With the red marks, this is where patches, alignment issues, or just dents are under the roof deck. Highlighted in red is where there's significant damage to the pavement. Next slide, please. So we have thought of several different alternatives, some of them being selling the property, repurposing, rezoning, and redeveloping the lots. While selling is an option, we believe because of the central location within the DFW Metroplex, that will be that holding on to it will yield a higher rate of return. With repurposing, rezoning, because of the relative isolation from different uses, we believe that it will be a little bit more challenging in maximizing the potential value of the property. Redeveloping the lots, we believe it wouldn't be cost efficient, and that we would have a hard time having having a satisfied ROI. Next slide, please. So going into our proposal, next slide, we decided to go with a value add and hold proposition, divided into two main phases. The first phase will address is immediate action items, and it will address key issues like the foundation damage, while secondary items will be split into two subsections, 2A and 2B. 2A will address needed repairs, while 2B will address added improvements. So going into immediate action items, we're going to address the major foundation damage by installing push piers and then injecting a specialized material to level off the foundation. Additionally, we want to add a drainage system on the east and north side of the property so it can improve irrigation and prevent any further soil movement. You may have noticed that there is a railway and a utility line that goes along the east side of the property. This will be a challenge, and it will be imperative that we coordinate with the city and utility providers to ensure that proper repairs are done. Next slide, please. So going into 2A with needed repairs, we're going to replace the roof so that we don't have recurring and contingent future expenses with repairs, and repave damaged pavement. So on the further west side, with this large blue rectangle, this is where there's complete asphalt that is cracked, damaged, and has potholes. So we would like to repave that. Towards the middle, with that blue square, this is where a previous tenant has had a spillage and is eating away at the concrete. So we want to address that issue too. With exterior repairs, in purple is where we want to fix that exterior facade damage where it's either peeling or deteriorating. Interior repairs will address where there's been a water damage on the roof, or not the roof, the wall. It is caused by a joint, the joint of the wall and the roof where it's increasing a gap from foundation. Next slide, please. So going into 2B with our added improvements, we will address make-ready items. So this will be repainting and replacing damaged ceiling tiles, as well as taking the carpet out and repolishing the concrete pavement so that we don't have any future recurring expenses in regards to carpet damage. Then we're going to go close up non-functional bay doors. One of our reasons was because we wanted to close up any potential break-in access points, because previously there was a break-in in suite 160 where they stole all the copper wiring in that suite. So that costed tens of thousands of dollars in damage. So we want to close up non-functioning bay doors. We also want to upgrade some of the truck bay levelers as well as windows. I do notice that they are not on because of the PowerPoint, but they are on the PDF. So be located in suite 100, these three, further 130, and then these two located right here. And then we also want to add windows in the interior offices as well. With the miscellaneous improvements, we wanted to add a general space for tenants to be able to go outside, take a fresh breath of air, as well as be able to have some place to eat and hang out. This will be in the center of where that yellow block is. And then we also want to reposition the trash can towards where the yellow block is in the south side of the property, so that it prevents any further spillage from staining the whole entire concrete. I went to also address the case openings. We wanted to install 2 case openings, one for foot traffic and one for interior vehicles like forklifts. We believe that combining the 2 units will have added utility, as well as it will prevent tenant congestion on the east side of the property. And so then in summary, we want to divide our proposal into 2 main phases, addressing underlying issues, needed repairs, and added improvements. And we believe that if we follow this order, that we would have a structured approach in minimizing disruptions in the improvement process. And so then also wanted to talk into a little bit about the risk analysis. It is important to note that all projects entail some level of risk. For this project specifically, it will be competition in the area, the age of the improvements, and the improvements made. I think we can stay competitive if we upgrade the property, upgrade features. have market-driven rents as well as offer some concessions. In regards to age, we believe that if we have consistent maintenance, inspections, as well as comprehensive insurance coverage, that we can mitigate the risk related to age. With improvements made, if we can have construction contingencies as well as experienced subcontractors, that we will ensure a timely and quality completion. And then I will redirect you to our financial analyst to talk a little bit more about the financing we're proposing.
All right, so all that improvement and renovation is all fine and well, but will it make us money? So before we get into the pro forma, I just want to go through some general assumptions. So some key assumptions that we're making here: the property was acquired free and clear, so no mortgage being accounted for. The property purchase price is equivalent to the tax assessed value. So you'll see that 4.37 million right there as the tax assessed value. And for IRR, your zero loss is calculated as the property purchase price, which is that tax assessed value, plus the 2024 annualized net operating income, which was that 220,000 that I showed you guys on the last slide. And remember, that's not including, we didn't annualize our rent nor CAM recoverable expenses because of the fact that we don't have any tenants right now. So really conservative approach on that one. So if we'll go to the next slide, we'll look at the pro forma and the capital improvements. So we really wanted to tackle our three main issues, which were the foundation, the roof, and the water damage. That's what makes tenants, potential tenants, walk in and get distressed and not want to lease out the place. So foundation repairs, you got right there. Other capital improvements, the roof repairs, those two are going to be the big majority of your total number. Then you've got some office improvements, bathroom fixtures, miscellaneous, and amenities like as Andrew was running through. And so your total is going to be this $1.63 million for your capital improvements. Now, sorry, if you could go back to the last slide. Before we get into the pro forma, let me just run through this as well. So we're assuming 100% leverage here, and the reason why we're doing that is because banks are giving about a 70% loan to value ratio, and as you can see, that 1.6 million is well under the 70%. So we do believe we could get 100% of our capital improvements loaned out. And so our interest rate we're going to be assuming is going to be a 7.75% interest rate. Our cap rate is 6.3%, and we're assuming a 20-year amortization loan at that interest rate. And that annual cumulative payment is going to be $160,000 per year. And we're going to inflate our rental income by 3.5% and our expenses by 2.5%. And we're going to have 5% closing cost amount. And the number that we're all waiting for is a very conservative $7.90 per square foot for the property. So if we'll go back to the next slide, please. Looking at the pro forma here, you'll see in 2025, you'll notice that your rental income is much less than the rest of your years. And that's because we're going with a conservative estimate that we will not get a tenant in until Q3 of 25. So you're only getting half of your rental income, and your CAM recoverable income is also going to reflect that as well. And like I mentioned before, your rental income is increasing by 3.5%. The expenses are inflating by 2.5%. And then if you'll come down here, there's your loan payment. Your loan remainder at sale is going to be your principal left on the loan. Your closing costs are going to be 5% of the purchase price, which is this $13.2 million. And the way we calculated that was the income approach, which would be your net operating income divided by the cap rate. And once you take away these fees right here, you're going to have a total net cash flow of $14.5 million over 6 years. And the reason why we did 6 years is to kind of go in line with the asset management company's plans. They like to hold for 10 years and dump. They had it for about 3-4 years. So we decided that we would it would make sense for us to keep it till 2030 and dump it then. And that'll give us a nice IRR of 23.81% at $7.90 base rent per square foot.
Thank you. I'll go over to the marketing. Thank you, Tommy, for your part. So first, I'll talk about the tenant base. And after the tenant base, I'll talk about drone and professional photos for the property. Then I'll go into brochure marketing and then email marketing. Next slide, please. For our tenant base, we plan to target, for our first suite, we plan to target subscription-based e-commerce store. We have listed 2, BattleBox and Cubico. The reason we selected those 2 is because they don't require heating or cooling for the products. And so for our first reason why we believe they are perfect for Suite 1 is we have office space for administration work. And then we have drop power lines that are inside the property already for assembly lines for the subscription-based e-commerce store. And then we also have dock doors. We have 3 dock doors, plenty for distributing and receiving products. And after that, we have plenty of space for storage, storing the products. We also have close to major highways. And then going into our second suite, we have chosen a solar power company. We have chosen Sunrun because they're a leading provider in residential solar power installment. And the reason we chose them was they have plenty of office space for administration work. Secondly, they offer high voltage boxes inside the property already, so this will be perfect for operating equipment, and also this will be perfect for recharging their batteries that they have for their solar panels. And then 3, they also have large spaces for storing their equipment because it's very big, these solar panels and the equipment for installing. And then 4, we have fenced parking around the property, so this will allow to keep their personal equipment safe, like the delivery trucks. So moving on. Thank you. And would you like to play the video? For our first marketing tactic is drone videos. We believe that taking a drone footage of the property will allow everyone, the tenants, to see a good view of what the interior has to offer, and also allow to get a wide view of the exterior too. So the drone would go through the property, inside and outside, and also go through the office spaces, so future tenants can also see what that looks like. Next slide. Secondly, we want to talk about professional photos. These are the current photos that LoopNet has of the property right now. As you can see, they do not really highlight the property too well. So we would like to hire a professional photographer to come in after the improvements are finished to take professional photos of the property to highlight the strengths so future tenants can see what they're working with. Next slide. So here I'm going to hand out some physical copies of the brochure. Here we go. And she also handed out for the email marketing too. But for the brochure, we plan to hand these brochures through brokerages and also put this on our website, on the brokerage's website too. And also we plan to hand these out or market them on paid advertisement like Facebook Marketplace. And this brochure highlights a summary of the property, shows great visuals of the property, and also highlights the strengths of what the property can be. Okay, moving on. And then lastly, I'll be talking about the email marketing plan. This plan is perfect because it allows us to target our specific tenants like the solar power company and the e-commerce store. So being able to send these emails out to these specific tenants is perfect, and it's also very cost efficient because emails don't really cost much. So that will be perfect, and everything else for the email marketing part of our marketing plan. So moving on, next slide. We appreciate you guys for coming out. We appreciate UTD, or Dallas IREM, for putting this competition together, and your judges to come out and see us present. Thank you.
I got a question. On your financial analysis, did you have anything in for improvements, for tenant improvements, or for commissions?
Go back.
Brokers commissions to
For
leasing-
brokers commissions,
leasing commissions?
that would be included in the closing costs. We just push that into the closing costs.
No, I meant for tenants coming in.
For tenants,
Yeah.
no.
So do you have any improvement allowance or any commissions to be paid?
No. When we were thinking about that, we just kind of made the closing costs a 5% rather than something lower, just to make sure that if anything like that came up, we would basically go for a more conservative approach with that one.
I'm curious, how did you guys come up with the foundation repair scope?
So I was contacting a few foundation repair companies. They said they wanted to acknowledge that this might be a rough estimate because they don't have access to interior to assess the property. But they would say normally how you would do is you would install push pier beams around maybe 10 so feet and then I would lift up the building or hijack the building up, and then they would inject a specialized material that would allow it to carry the weight of the building to level out the foundation.
It's a very common approach. I was curious how you guys came up with that. And just one more question on that. The drainage system that's to be installed on the east side of the building along the rail line, did you guys review easements or property lines on that side of the property?
So unfortunately, we weren't able to get exactly what the easements were. We assumed that because there's a utility line, there was a utility easement. I personally went to go out in contact with the city and try to find a plat to view the property lines and where the easements may be. However, because of they said because of the type of the building, which is industrial, that it may be a little bit more difficult to find those exact plats of the property. So we made the assumption that there is a utility easement that we would need to coordinate with the city and the utility provider and doing the repairs.
I think, good. I think you used 6.3 as your cap rate. How did you determine that?
Oh, we got that from CoStar.
Now your rental rate, what is your rental rate? I mean, right now it's like, I think it's $10 gross or something like that. So what, is it the 7.7?
No, it's a $7.90. It's on the assumptions page, but no, it's $7.90. It's right here. This base rent, $7.90.
So that's not that much more than what they're looking at. Right?
No, the reason why we went with a 7.9% base rent is just to give a conservative estimate. If we were really to lease this out, most likely we would end up going with something higher. But we just wanted to go with the most conservative numbers just to make sure that, like, you know, if we're going with a more worst case scenario, the numbers would make sense. That's the reason why it was lower.
So the 23% return is based on the sale?
It's based on a 7.9% rental for 6 years and then a sale at the end of 6 years.
6 years.
Yes. So we'll sell in 2030.
So question on your inflation rate and your rent inflation, how do you determine a 3.5% annual inflation for rents?
I just did some market research, just basically what kind of rents that we're experiencing in the area, and then for the expenses the same.
So is there any assumption on the overall absorption of the deliveries and the net occupancy rate in that area? I think in your earlier analysis you showed that deliveries about the same as absorption over term, and there's no change in occupancies in that marketplace. What was your average occupancy in the building during your whole period for your assumptions?
Thank you for the question, though, but could you maybe rephrase it so I can understand better?
So two things.
Okay.
If you go back up to your overall market analysis, you're showing that there's really no change in overall occupancy in the submarket over the next.
Yeah, it's pretty back there. You have to go a lot more slides.
Am I going?
Oh, you're going the right direction.
Towards the beginning. Sorry.
Oh, you can keep going. It's one with the graph.
Yeah.
The one more. There you go.
So you're seeing that your deliveries and your absorption are almost equivalent going back and through 2027, and you're seeing that the overall occupancy rate is 89, 88% for Pepper GSW.
Let me see if I can answer your question. So for these, I've noted that these are neck to neck, and so it's going to contribute to a greater amount of stability. So as new supply is coming up and then is getting eaten by the net absorption, like these are like our our metrics for supply and demand. As our property turns over during this whole period, because as we highlight in our timeline is about a year. So by the time we finish around this rate, we are able to project how much vacancy is within our units. And then furthermore, I understand that the vacancy rate for our specific property is up there, but we cater to a more specialized market, and so therefore offering a more specialized conservative approach, as you said, you want to leverage how much you can charge them from a lower amount of clear height, especially that our tenant base is more, they need lesser space. Therefore, we can increase our occupancy rate because we're able to compete. Despite all of this is more of like a reflection of like how our property is very unique to other properties, and then we can base on our own vacancy. I hope that answers your question.
But what I want to try to do is correlate this to your financial analysis and seeing that your stabilized occupancy probably is not going to exceed the market. So if the market's 88%, did your financial analysis assume that you would be at what occupancy when you're stabilized?
Well, we just assumed that we would have a tenancy throughout.
Well, but at what rate? What is your occupancy rate?
100%.
Okay. So is it realistic to think that you're going to be at 100% if the market average is 88%?
We believe it would be. However, if it doesn't, that's why we could have. That's kind of why we went with super conservative estimates everywhere else, just to kind of account for something like that.
And then furthermore, to add to your point, that's the reason why we decided to combine from 3 units to 2 units. One, the small unit, if we cannot lease it out, that's to take into account to that conservative market approach. And then the larger unit, which we combined the 2 units, we also recognize that there's a lot of people looking for bigger space. Some of these smaller, more distressed assets, like the ones in the market variable analysis, the properties, they're transforming over to more single tenants, so they're probably, they need that enough space. So we believe that combining those two will help retain our vacancy rates to be a good number.
And furthermore, with the improvements that we made to the property and the marketing approach that we're taking, we believe that we will not be vacant for the length of time that we have been in 2024. So if we were in that situation where we had one or two vacancies, we don't think that we would be months and months and months and months without a tenant.
On your improvement costs, I think, can you go back to your improvement costs? I think you had $1.6 million, you said?
Yes.
And how much you had in for the roof? Because you were re-roofing the entire property, 100,000 square feet.
We've estimated at around 744,000 dollars. That'll be $8 a square foot, with around I believe 93,000 square feet.
And then the foundation work was how much?
Sorry, one more time.
Foundation.
500.
So that's the bulk of your cost.
Yes.
How did you determine your roof replacement cost?
So we decided to, because we're going to turn over this asset over, we have to consider that there's some work already made to the roof. So we believe that taking a more conservative kind of material, which is asphalt, I looked at some local contractors online and just decided like, okay, I think $8 is a pretty good good price.
Property management for a group called IREM Logistics Parks. And for those of you that don't know, the property that you all had done the case competition for was actually one of our assets that we own here in Dallas. So I also wanted to introduce Robert Timmons, who's in the back. He is our head of asset management. So this is a really special opportunity for us to be able to hear both of these groups go through this case competition. I wanted to start by saying thank you all for your time and your commitment. The greatest part about being part of this program is really seeing how much effort you all put into these case competitions. I've coached 2 years, and so this is the first year I didn't coach because obviously I have connection to the property. So want to thank the coaches as well. It's a lot of effort for you all to kind of do this outside of your day-to-day, and I think both of the teams did a great job presenting the information, and it's very clear that you took the time to go through each of the questions and the deliverables, so kudos to both teams. It's also interesting always to see, perspectives and all the recommendations that are made, and so we'll definitely be taking note of those and back to the office for some best practices to our teams. So with that, the next step is I'll be announcing the winners, and then we'll have an opportunity to do some Q&A with our fabulous panel here. So again, both teams, phenomenal job. Really great to hear what you all had to share, but I am very honored to share that UTD is our 2024 case competition winner. Decisions are never easy, so you all did a fantastic job. So really great job thinking outside the box, no pun intended. And I will turn it over to our fabulous judges for questions and answers. So thank you.
So what we thought we'd do is give you some feedback initially, and then kind of open up the questions after that. So I get to do the one for UNT. First of all, we thought the concept was very interesting. We liked the idea that y'all thought outside the box, by putting in the box per se. One of the things we wish we would have seen is your logic to get there. Like, did you explore other alternatives and what those alternatives were, and then how did you end up coming to this recommended solution? So a little bit more in the way y'all were thinking and how you ended up coming to this particular conclusion. We, in the financials, we were kind of, I guess, confused a little bit about how that salt box works and the way y'all presented the financials, because with salt blocks, they typically will do a rental amount. Say, you're going to pay $1,000 a month, or you're going to pay $350 a month, and so it's typically an all-inclusive type of rental structure, not nets plus base. That would be more of a traditional lease structure that the tenants would pay the nets because they have term. If you're in 3 months, it'd be hard to calculate what those nets would be, and then to reconcile those if the tenancies are shorter duration. So that we're a little bit, we didn't think the financials necessarily mirrored what the concept would be. We thought that it probably have been a different solution would be that you were master leasing it to a salt box, and then they were doing the other side of it. Because we didn't really see where you had a marketing cost or marketing expenses associated with developing and marketing this concept to potential users out there. So, you're almost creating a business on top of the real estate side. And if you're doing that, then there's obviously cost and there's infrastructure that you'd want to have a bigger platform than just one property to make that work. Not discounting the thought, but just thinking about it, how it was presented and how we got to it and what those financial returns would be. When you talked about the capital, we would like to have seen what you were spending that $1.1 million on. We didn't really get that. When we look at some of the salt box locations, we see a lot of common elements. They have common rooms, they have food, they have break areas, they have a lot of things that would be associated with those. And some of the other things that we were not seeing was there any infrastructure cost other than just material improvements that you're doing? Did y'all recognize the foundation issues that would need to be addressed, the roof leaks, and some of the other things that would require capital to go in to do that. So when you're breaking down, when you're presenting a number, especially a big number like $1.1 million, we would like to see how we're going to spend that. What's the time frame? Where's it going to go? What you had included in that. So just another area. Then we were a little bit confused on financial returns. At one point, you said on your slides you had 2488 AP, and then another one said 20 .738.
Can I answer that?
Yes.
That was, we're actually looking at it, with one of the slide doesn't apply selling cost on it, the other one applies selling cost. And the difference between the other one is the selling cost, but we obviously did, put that in there, but if that was brought up, that was gonna be hopefully the same. The selling cost makes a difference, obviously, paying us up. If we're gonna, sell in that brand.
Okay. So, kind of going through all those are some recommendations that we would do for future years. Like that. And then do we want to go straight into?
Yeah, so that's an example of how you guys had great answers for the question. So we can tell that the work is put in and thought behind it. It's an investment, the property, right? And so when you think about investments, it's risk versus reward. How do you mitigate that risk as much as you can? Do you have confidence to invest in that property? And we feel at UTD did a very solid job of outlining a plan that helped us feel comfortable about making an investment overall. It was really good market analysis as well. The comp sheet that you had with the other properties was good on the rental rates and the ages of the properties. There are some missing the TIs and the commissions that you're going to have to pay in order to lease the properties. The spaces as you go along is something that would have to be in there. And we thought that it's a troubled property, right? From the condition descriptions and the capital improvements that you guys put into your plan, it's very clear that you investigated the property and looked at the property. So I had confidence that you've put eyes on the property and you've laid out a realistic plan. We're going to have to spend money to get the property where we want it to be to make the investment pay off. It was less clear of the current condition. The images shown in y'all's feedback or presentation showed like the marketing pieces. So there were some other damages that they found that were clear or came out. You gave us 3 alternatives. We looked at these 3 different things and we selected from those options to pursue this option. This is our recommendation. So that was very clear and per the guidance. We do feel you assumed 100% of occupancy when there should be during the lease-up period. You're going to have some ongoing vacancy and you need to account for that in your analysis. So that was something that you could improve. And that's also on the OpEx side as well. If you're not 100% leased, you're not getting 100% of your operating expenses reimbursed either. So you have to account for your vacancy in both places. And there's probably some slightly higher numbers than what you guys forecast. $8 for per square foot for a new roof is a layover of a roof. It's not a replacement, and based on the images you guys showed, there's probably going to be more expense than what that is anticipated. But you also put forth a conservative estimate. You made it very clear when you went into it. We're taking a conservative approach, and still after going through all of that, I would feel more comfortable in investing in your plan with the property than I would have with the other teams. And so that's really ultimately, I think, what swayed the judges to go select you guys overall.
Thank you.
We'll open it up for questions.
In the market analysis, this is a very new area for me. It's my first time doing it. Especially props to CoStar because I learned so much from it. I bet y'all you use it a lot. But what would you have wanted to see more in a market analysis?
Can I answer that?
Yes, please.
You guys suggested putting in some pass-throughs between 2 of the spaces and combining 2 of the suites. I would like to see what the absorption rate was on spaces less than 30,000 feet versus over 50,000 feet to see if combining those 2 spaces made sense from a market perspective. Because when you do combine spaces like that, you're going to be marketing to different types of tenants who are looking for different size spaces.
Thank you.
Really appreciate the tough questions. Thank you.
Yeah. I definitely thought it gave me a lot to think out. Unfortunately for me, I'll be graduating, so there's no opportunity to come back. But if Mr. Moffett wants to invite me next year to advise or
You'd
give
be
my,
invited.
I mean, I would definitely love to come back. I mean, we're gonna get our get back. It's been a lot of fun.
It's a great industry to be in. You guys brought fresh ideas that we didn't think about. I wouldn't have looked at that property and gone, oh, hey, let's apply this kind of concept. So I encourage you to all continue to pursue your real estate careers. It's a wonderful industry. You never see everything. It's always changing and evolving, so it can be a lot of fun. And you can make money doing it, so why not?
I mean, honestly, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you again, because I mean, this was all of ours except Michael's first time, and we appreciate the feedback. And honestly, we'd rather the brutal honesty, just because, you know, I mean, one thing I live by is I either win or I learn. You know, so at least I learned something here today, and I appreciate all you.
I think that's a life lesson you'll continue to learn throughout your life.
Yeah.
You know, I think one of the things that we had mentioned is that, you know, when you're doing this, you're trying to guide people down a path. And so having some of the thought processes that got you to a conclusion is important for us to know that you guys have thought about this to get to where you are today. And we, you know, one of the things that UTD did better was to show us, we thought about this, we thought about this, and we thought about this, and, you know, ultimately we decided to go this way because of that. So y'all probably did the same analysis, but you didn't show it to us. So we're sitting there going, okay, well, you know, they've got an interesting concept, we like it, you know, would it work in this market? We're not sure, but, you know, what else did they look at? If I'm going to be investing dollars, I want to make sure that we are exploring the highest and best outcome with that. So, you know, walking people down a path to get to your conclusion is obviously something that's going to help you down the road as well. So just because you've done it doesn't mean that everybody else knows that you did.
Now, you may not have scored dollars with this presentation, but you're exactly right. You guys have done something that your peers haven't done. You got a lot of your buddies are back at the frat house drinking beer. You guys are out hustling and getting data and doing something, a presentation. How many of your peers give these presentations to professionals? So you're so far advanced now just by doing this than your peers are. I congratulate you on that, and I tell you it will pay off.
I agree with Rich on that too. I think you guys did a great job. I know it when I was finishing college and everything, I always knew I wanted to be in commercial real estate, but what avenue or what direction I wanted to go. I mean, my degree was in general business with concentration in accounting, so to get into real estate, I had to go in on the accounting side. Then when I got there, I had to figure out which direction I wanted to go, and I went the property management route. And then you guys have such a good rounded view of everything, and you know the analysis part of it that you guys are doing. That's the shortcomings of a lot of people getting into real estate. So I think you guys, commercial real estate is you think that's your future and everything. I think you're off to a great start.
Thank you. I do have one question. And towards the end of our presentation, we presented some email as well as brochures, and then that drone video. I was really excited when he put in our presentation. Is there any particular marketing did we not mention how to advertise this property?
Well, you know, in a more realistic scenario, that as an investor, we're going to hire, for one-off assets, that we're probably going to hire a real estate firm that specializes in property management and leasing. So we're going to rely on their platform to market those. If we have 60 properties in a marketplace, we might bring all that in-house. But if we're talking about this one property, we're probably not going to start a big company just to manage and lease this one project. And then, you know, kind of going back to the salt box concept of, okay, how do we market this, since we're probably not going to get the broker community involved in this one? How are we going to go to direct to users? How do we approach them? What digital advertising are we using? Are we using paper? Are we using? How are we going to do that? So a lot of questions about how we're going to hit those end users. Looking at this. this in conversations, that a lot of these people are coming in from their garages, or they're coming in from their self-storage unit, saying, I need something bigger, I need something more flexible. And then looking at it from the concept of going from that to a more permanent type structure as they grow as well. So kind of an incubator to permanent type of scenario. That's not typically one project that you're going to make that happen on. It's going to be that you have a portfolio of projects to make that work. So in answer to your question, I don't think it was bad. It's just where are you going to go to hand out a brochure? You would have that information on the website, and whoever's leasing the project would have that information. They would be going to different brokerages to highlight your property as well.
But I was impressed with the drone tour. Yeah, we're all old veterans up here, and every time I go, oh, a drone, I don't think about that. So that was another one of those fresh ideas that you bring to the table. And marketing is another sector of the real estate industry that you can get into, and those kind of fresh ideas on a marketing team would pay dividends.
Yep. And it's constantly evolving. So all kinds of social media platforms, as well as LinkedIn and those kind of things, help in the overall marketing. So to say what else, you tell me. I mean, there's a whole gamut of how to market, right? Guerrilla marketing or just social media or other stuff. So yeah, there's a lot still, but at least you showed some. You came with solid ideas.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
I guess I didn't know anything about the drone video. Is that something you guys shot yourself, or was that something you requested from the landlord? Or?
No, we just took a video of an example that someone else did online. We didn't have access to a drone to go through the space.
Yeah, that's pretty neat though. That's growing up, especially clear.
Yeah.
A little bit slower. I mean, he's kind of doing it on the ground. But yeah, that's pretty neat though. I'll give you guys that. That's it. Didn't cross my mind.
So, one of the things that might be helpful sometimes is that y'all do peer review and just show what, present to each other. After, obviously, you don't want to do that before because obvious reasons, but that might be helpful that you see what your competition did, so you can get an idea of how maybe next time you might want to do something.
So does each group have access to the other's presentation at some point?
Well, they do broadcast this on YouTube, so technically, yes. This is how, I guess I'll let you in our insider secret or whatever. I hope they don't mind. But these videos are publicly on YouTube, and so we took 2019 video and UNT won that year. And so we were like, we need to copy word for word for word what they did.
Yeah, you just gave up your secret sauce.
She got her trophy and now she did that. That's crazy.
But I would think that would be a good for you guys to see what your competition is.
I mean, we did look at it, but it made it. Again, we're just so focused on this idea, just so excited about it, and obviously the stuff that you guys mentioned, we thought about that stuff, but just like this is the idea. We're gonna sell this, and, obviously.
Yeah, and
I didn't do a bad job on that. I mean, I'm not. There's a winner and there's a loser. Obviously, but it's not that they're losers.
I mean, I think we should take more focus on the idea, but then incorporate what we actually have in our portfolio. But
I don't know if you caught it, but Greg said that right after you guys went out of the room and started eating lunch, we went online and looked up salt box, and that's why we could see their concept and thought, okay, we got a good visual of it. So yeah, we were looking at the online data.
This is not saying it was a bad idea at all. It was just, when we look at it from the overall standpoint of how it was presented and the information that was given, that we felt more comfortable that, I think Rich said it or Adam said it, that we would invest this way because we knew more about what was going on than over here. There's a lot more questions that we would have with you guys on that one. So thinking about it as, we're an investor coming in and we've got $10 million and we ask you, where should we put this? We're going to go that direction because we felt more comfortable that they had their plan was more thought out.
I think, well, you can go ahead.
I was gonna say, so, you know, looking back at this, redoing it, say you guys are in our shoes, what would be the most important thing to focus on? Would you guys say? Like, what was like something that just was a deciding factor, or something that you think is invaluable to your assessment and like, okay, I wanna make this investment?
So I think it kind of goes back to what we said initially, is that we want to make sure that we explore several options. You know, that you've gone through and looked at this and said, you know, we looked at this and we're going to tear it down. You know, are we going to redevelop it, or are we going to go in and market it for general lease use? And when we decided that it didn't make sense to tear it down, it didn't make sense to repurpose it, you know, it made sense to release it. We thought that in this market, with these vacancies that are under the competition that exists, that the best direction would be to go with this type of concept, which we like the concept. You know, the question becomes, okay, should you do it as a landlord, or would you master lease it, because that's the only property? We only had $10 million, we didn't have $1 billion that we were going to go and buy a bunch of different projects to build this business.
I think the other thing, we like the delineation of the capital costs that UTD did. They gave us a line item, didn't just throw up the $2.1 million that we're gonna put in it. They told us where that would go, and we know, you know, we see that every day, so we could look at that and go, We had some questions, but when we asked them, they had answers, you know, so they might not have been okay, but they had, you know, they gave some thought to it. They didn't just throw up some numbers, so.
And I think one of the things that we are thinking about too as investors, if you're going to say you're going to be conservative, I think it's hard to say 100% occupancy is conservative when you have a marketplace that's averaging 88% for your analysis. It's kind of interesting in your analysis too that, you know, y'all have a market vacancy over time with a little bit over 6%, and y'all had one that was a little bit over 12% over time. So, you know, not saying either is right, it's interesting to see the difference. But cap rates were similar on both of y'all on reversion and on current valuation. I think both of y'all were in the near 4 or 5 on the initial valuation. And so both of y'all really have the same mindset of what this property is today and then what we could ultimately exit it at. You know, in other recommendations, I would say that, you know, if if you love an idea, make sure that you kind of vetted that it makes sense for this type of asset versus another type of asset as well. One of the things I didn't quite understand was, you know, ultimately configurable aspect of it. Well, how do you reconfigure it for each user over time? Where does that cost? And what's the downtime associated with those? If you're going to be marketing as a short duration type of user, entirely configurable. And I think Rich mentioned the $1.1 million in capital you have. It would be nice to see, okay, we're going to use this or this, we're going to do this, this, and this, so that we had everything that was going to be done. And then if we had infrastructure questions like the foundation issues of roof leaks, that you've already addressed those instead of us, you know, trying to dig out what you had in the number as well.
So I'm going to circle back to your question. What's the one thing you should, the biggest thing to take away?
Well, I meant kind of as much as the project, yeah, but I wanted to know, like, for you guys, when you look specifically in like a property that you're looking at, what is it that you guys see and like, okay, this is a deciding factor?
So, so we have to have confidence that you've done the research, that you've put in the due diligence, that you're going to take our money and make money with it, that I'm not going to lose it in a misstep. Clear communication is what is required. Good communication builds confidence, poor communication erodes confidence. So if you want me to invest in some project that you're trying to do, you have to develop my confidence in you and in that concept. And while we think that you guys did a lot of that work, we couldn't see it as much. So it wasn't clear and evident. So you have to, in your communications, be redundant. Maybe it's something we should all know and have thought through 50 times by the first slide that we see, but you need to explain that you know, that you did the diligence and that you went through it so that we have confidence in working with you.
Tell the story.
Yeah, tell the story, tell it well, tell it with confidence, and repeat.
And I think, another answer to your question is that if we're looking at it, it really depends on what we're looking at it for. So if I'm looking at value add, I have a whole different perspective than if I'm looking at something that is stabilized. So there's no one answer. It's really kind of what is the capital I have and what are the requirements for the capital. If I'm going to try to make the most money on the capital, then I'm going to look towards a value add type of scenario. If I'm looking at a stabilized return to it, and then I'm going to be looking at a much different type of asset.
To be honest with you guys, your concept was a lot harder to sell. You would have had to do a lot more work on your presentation because it's a concept that's not really proven, or is it suitable for that particular market and everything. And so you're going to have a lot more questions asked about your concept. You're going to have to do a lot more detail, and it's going to be harder for you to sell. Now, their concept is a traditional concept. Okay, you got an asset that needs improvements, and basically, and bring it back up, and cosmetic improvements and some structural improvements, and then once you do that, the asset is in good shape, and you market it, and it should compete with the market. But then yours is just so many question marks there, and like I say, you're gonna be answering questions all day long.
And let me follow up with that too, because one of the things that I would have done if I was going down that road, and again, I'm still thinking of master lease with that operator, is like, then I would have compared my project to other ones that Salt Blocks is leased in the Dallas marketplace, and say, this is the type of product they're looking at: clear heights, square footage, power requirements, and all the components that makes a decision for that type of user to take a facility and build that. So, once you had the concept and the idea of what you want to do, then I would have made it more thought through the use of my project compared to the other ones that are in the marketplace. That way, we would have more confidence that that type of user would like this type of project.
Any other questions?
And, it doesn't have to be about your presentation. You have market or industry questions or anything else that we can. You got us. We're not charging by the hour.
I would highly recommend that all of you guys join IREM as a student member after today. It's free. It'll give you a professional organization to put on your resumes when you guys start actually looking for jobs. It's really easy. Go to irem.org, join as a student member. It's free. You just basically enter your contact information. But it gives you the resources. There's white papers. There's training videos that are often free to members to answer a lot of these questions you guys may have afterwards. Definitely recommend doing that after today, if you haven't already.
And maybe this is the first time, but where do y'all want to go in real estate? What is your avenue or the path that y'all want to take in that one?
And you have somewhere in they want to start.
We can start from y'all.
Okay. Right now I'm working in capital markets. I work at BMC Capital. But future I'd like to get in acquisitions. I know it's super competitive, but that's my long-term goal. I want to get into capital markets, like real estate investments. That's
I'm gonna go to commercial real estate, maybe like property management.
Definitely have an interest in property management and then residential appraisals.
I have an interest in retail development, so retail mixed-use development, and my role, I guess, would be like a development analyst or investment analyst, doing the diligence, underwriting, and financial modeling and stuff like that.
Right now, I am in the property management. I'm interning at Dogwood Commercial doing retail. If I want to challenge myself more, I'd probably be an asset manager, but I really find a lot of fulfillment doing property management.
My end goal is to invest in multifamily, so I don't have to work.
That's your answer.
We're working more.
Specifically commercial development, more on the residential side.
Probably like governmental development. Is what I'm interested.
Would you say governmental?
Yeah, like jails and schools.
So you look at working like for in a municipality or what?
I'm still trying to figure it out. I kind of want to change some stuff about the certain conditions that they'd have to offer, so that's what I'm interested in doing.
Like I say, I think what you guys are doing, it just gives you a good rounded view of all aspects of, real estate and everything, especially on the investment side. It all boils down to NOI. When you that's what everything is kind of based on, all investments and everything. But it kind of, you have to, looking at the marketing side, which is the leasing side, and then the management side, and then the acquisition, disposition. I mean, it just gives you a good overview of everything and gives you an idea of where you want it done.
Fun question for y'all. Since you brought up IREM as a pitch to us, I wanted to see what was your first real estate organization that you've joined, and how has it helped you?
Well, it was IREM for me.
Yeah, it was IREM for me too.
I've learned more with this organization than I ever did in college. And frankly, more than I have on the job. IREM has been the best decision I've ever made. Getting my CPM has been the most valuable experience for me.
So I think any professional organization that's out there that you really is a concentration on what you're wanting to do is what you should look at. One, it gives you networking capabilities, and then it also provides some educational opportunities as well.
I agree. It depends, because some of you guys mentioned, capital markets and investments. So quite naturally, the CCIM designation would be more beneficial for you for that. And you guys had mentioned property management, then IREM, some of those organizations would be better suited initially and everything. But it's just where you're looking to go, and then there's so many different organizations you can belong to in real estate, then you just have to kind of partner with that or whatever organization you think is going to help you out more with your particular career.
I joined IREM in BOMA at about the same time, and I think my education through IREM was much more beneficial than the experiences I had at BOMA, but BOMA also had some very solid networking and relationships that I've utilized both along the way, so joined multiple organizations.
I mean, I have all the designations and everything, but what I wish, if I had to go back and start over again, I would be honest with you, I'd learn more about development, acquisition, disposition, valuations, and that part of it. But property management has been great for me, and I think I've had a pretty successful career and everything. But I strongly commercial real estate is a good area to look at. Real estate in general, whereas commercial, multifamily, industrial, whatever.
3 of these guys are getting tested on valuation on Monday.
Yeah, I pull out my 19B2.
Really appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.
We thank you. I mean, taking this time off and doing this is wonderful. You guys probably have more fun things to do.
This is one of the highlights
Yeah.
here. This is always, we're always so impressed with what you guys come up with. It takes so much courage to get up in front of a panel of industry professionals who've done this for 20 plus years. When it's really your first time to do so, and I know we can ask a lot of tough questions, and we provide a lot of constructive feedback, but kudos to all of you.
Thank you.
For
Yeah.
having the courage to
Robert Timmons, any questions, since he's the actual asset manager of the property?
Oh, I know one.
I'll stand up here so I don't have to turn around.
So, what are your plans for the project?
This is going to be the easy question to begin with, right?
Let me guess, fix the foundation and put in salt.
This is a value add B building, we don't fix foundation. No, actually, so
we're looking at, so just to give you guys a background on Art, small bay, infill, industrial owner-operator, right? Value add shop. We own about 260 buildings like this across the country, 12 markets, about $1.5 billion in assets, right? With that, we've got about 1,200 tenants, turning over a third of those tenants every year. So it's an extremely hands-on, granular business plan that we operate every year. This year, we've done 300 leases and over 300 capital projects, just like this, day in and day out. So some of the questions that this group posed to you guys, I think one of the biggest things you want to think of, financial analysis, obviously, right? If you buy something and you overpay or you don't have the capital budget, you're toast, right? Make sure you figure it out, right? Make sure you figure out your debt. This little thing called floating rate debt and interest rate caps that can bite you in the butt if you didn't think about it, okay? But most importantly, on the capital side for these older buildings, you have to be ready, willing, and able to spend the money to fix the building. Otherwise, you will see that this building will sit vacant, so will the one next to it, because what are you guys doing? You're offering the same rundown building, so then somebody's gonna offer a lower cost. Nobody makes money there. You gotta improve the asset. This asset in particular has been leased for a long time. We actually have intentionally let one tenant expire. One went bankrupt first, and one had a natural expiration. So for us, the whole plan is, what are we gonna do now? The salt box idea is actually one that we have detailed in diligence significant. We're talking with them in CubeWorks and these other co-warehouses across the country for assets like this, right? And the reason behind that is, after you get past your capital analysis, your investment analysis, the biggest thing you need to do, know your customer. Who the hell is gonna rent space from you, right? This building is 16 foot clear with a handful of docks, it's 100,000 feet. It is not a distribution building. They can't rack in that building. So people who want to distribute for economies of scale are leasing 100,000 feet or 80,000 feet with 24 foot clear. Some, you'll see in today's world, a whole different thing. We get on groups that are, building 40 foot clear buildings and everything. Well, that's all great. It's brand new. It's cool. And people talk about it and do fantastic drone videos, which I really like. But about 80% of your customer base racks below 32 foot clear. So it's not necessary for everybody, especially a 30,000 foot user, right? 40 foot clear building, it's like a chimney, right? So here, what we're doing, the salt box thing is great, and it is gonna be under a master lease structure. I am not gonna have somebody on my team oversee 100 small tenants in there leasing firms. So what you're gonna do in that case is you're gonna have the office pod, which is built out already. We're gonna go in, fix the foundation, I am gonna do that. That's about 100 grand, we've already got that price. There's about another $500,000 of capital improvements. Okay, you gotta white box the warehouse, you gotta put in new high efficient LED lights because you're gonna have smaller spaces. It's gotta be brighter, people gotta see what they're doing, right? The office is already complete. So for the salt boxes of the world, the CubeWorks of the world, the All-Trades, they need to have a modular office that you can move around and create that welcoming environment where tenants can have room to meet the people. You got a little conference room, you got some cubicles, but you don't want to build fixed structure because if you go in and tear it out, you're adding to your cost. All right, so I'm going to sign a lease with a CubeWorks. They're going to do the master lease. They're going to pay for everything. So I'm going to get them to pay me the $250 in OpEx plus maybe $3-4 to me, and then they're going to lease for $12. So I make a little bit of money, they make money. I'm not leasing at market because I'm not going to spend all the money, right? And then have that rollover. I'm gonna have a 10-year master lease with a CubeWorks or a salt box. I get credit, I get term. I'm not spending as much, I'm not making as much, but it works out for me in that scenario, right? So that's one path. The other path is the route that you guys are talking about the multi-tenant side, which is historically what it was. The 100,000 square footer is very difficult with 16 foot clear, right? Typically, that is gonna get, it's not distribution, right? It's not a guy out of his garage, because that's too expensive, right? He's not writing me a $300,000 check here, right? So that is, under the 30,000 foot scenarios in 3 blocks, you have typically less credit. You have less quality of an asset because it's kind of that middle user who's trying to grow their business. They may get extended over their skis. In this case, the way we're gonna look at it is ideally, again, know your customer. The perfect user for this space is an HVAC company, manufacturer, or somebody that needs good space, not a lot of clear height, they're not paying for an A quality building, paying a B rate, they don't need clear height again, right? They have a fenced, secure parking lot for their laydown equipment or their trucks. So HVAC companies, as we talked about, service vans, important product, expensive product inside, MRI repair companies, right? People who do manufacturing, repair, assembly, or some kind of sales and service, right? They're not racking, they need floor space. This building, which both of you guys should have looked at, was the power. How much power does this building have? Anybody know?
Somebody had a list.
1600 amps.
1600 amps? You did have, okay, I missed that, I'm sorry. Very good, right. So 1600 amps is good, not for a manufacturer, right? So you're splitting that up, if it's 410, you're splitting it up to about 400 amps a piece, which is effectively lights and a coffee machine, right? So a lot of these groups today that have battery powered stuff, that have electric forklifts, right, they need more power. Manufacturing company, if they're gonna come in and do manufacturing assembly, they're gonna need about 5,000 amps, if they take the whole building, right? Now, we do have the rail line that you guys pointed out behind it, which is great. There's a rail spur as well, it's not active, but you could reactivate it if you get the right user, and the rail companies are willing to play the game. You gotta get enough cars coming through so they make enough money, etc. But those are actually the two scenarios. You guys were both on point about the directions we were going. Salt box, co-warehousing is a very new concept, but it's taken off a lot. Some of these groups have performed very well and become very profitable. But it's still new to the space, right? People who are not industrial experts and do this every day weren't really familiar with it yet, right? But it's a growing part of the business. So a good thing to think about. That's this asset in particular, but what other questions for asset management, operations, value add, industrial, or value add in general?
On the asset management, what is the fee that you guys paid? I want to ask, there's a two-part discussion. Do you do third-party asset management as well, or just in-house?
No, just for us.
Okay. And have you done like any asset management third-party in your career?
No.
Okay.
So Arden is a private equity firm.
Yeah.
Right. So I run the asset management business. I helped build the platform at Arden, and so my focus came out of investment banking, capital markets, private equity, and operations. And so in this function today, it was building that platform because it's, again, think about the tenant count we have, the number of projects, the vision that certain groups need to have to see an old rundown building, which you guys pointed out very well. Thank you very much. You were not wrong. You got to have all those components together, as we talked about before, right? You have to have the financial analysis. You have to understand your capital budget. You have to understand how you're going to finance it, how you're going to pay for all this work. And then you got to ultimately understand how you're going to sell it, right? What you're going to sell it for, and during that process, who's going to lease you. So that's, again, that takes a lot of experience from business. You got to get the right experience. You got to get the right knowledge from the right people. As everyone here mentioned, talk to your go to every industry event you can get into. Talk to everyone, because the way I always look at my career is, if I go to some event for an hour and I have one good conversation, absolutely worth my time. If you do that enough times, you do that 100 times a year, 50 times a year, think about where your career could go.
Can I share with you a model?
Do what?
Can I share with you a model that I made for this property there?
You can connect with me after, because I want to do after I leave, but
Yeah, in our analysis, we kind of went in with like no debt, so this is all straight cash, from the fund, and that would also cover the, tenant improvements and stuff like that. But I laid it in debt and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'd love to see you.
We had a concern about getting lost in the details.
Yeah.
We had a genuine, because it's complex, a lot of moving parts and pieces, and we actually talked about it. We're like, man, we start going down the road of all those details, and so I said, guys, we're gonna lose them. That it's going straight over their head, and I just, they're smart people, but like too much detail, we'll lose them. So I was concerned about it.
I think that's a very good concern. You guys can speak to it honestly as well. But what we have to do in all of our investment decks, I mean, you're writing a check for a couple $100 million. You're doing a lot of analysis, right? And yeah, in a presentation like this, it's going to get lost. My comment there would be to have included that as an appendix. So here's all of our backup. We're going to go through the high level points, review it at your leisure, right? Something like that. That way this team knows it was there, it was thoughtful, and if they want to challenge your assumptions, they got to read the material. Because that will happen in investment a lot. There are many times that our team put together days and days of work, and you get to the meeting and nobody's ready. That's, especially if you guys come out as analysts, nobody's gonna read a damn thing you guys put out. It's gonna be, hey, Friday, I need you guys to work on this, and come Monday, we have a meeting, nobody's gonna read it. Still gotta do it. Still gotta do it. So, but it's there. It's important for the fact. So that would be my, guess.
And at what point would you sell the asset?
Traditionally, these are underwritten as 5-year holds, right? It depends on your capital structure, right? If it's a joint venture equity model where you're a private equity firm, you invest with me on this one deal, it's underwritten as a 5-year deal, typically, right? On value add, you've got a year to buy it. You gotta go through a J curve where you're spending more money than you're making. Then you're gonna get paid back for it for a year. Maybe you refi for a year or two and pull some of your equity out so you get a higher cash on cash return, and then you sell it. So there's a rationale behind why it's usually 5 years. Larger groups like us now, and the way the industry is going, it's more what's called evergreen funds. So if you haven't heard of that, what it is you buy a whole bunch of assets. Real estate has become so much more institutional that everybody wants to have it. It is very difficult for a group like us to buy 260 buildings, sell it all, and then do it again quickly, right? It'd take us twice as long as it did before. So you start replacing capital, right? The underwritten time frame is around the same, but it depends on what kind of capital source you have and how you can replace them with different capital. Again, if you think about a value add deal, you want a higher return, right? You're doing the work, you want to get paid for it. Well, after we've done the work, then it's more blocking and tackling, and we're the experts who've already done all the work. So now you're gonna bring in a new capital partner that has a less or lower return requirement. But they still want more than they would get in the public equity or bond.
On your J curve period, what are you underwriting for operating reserves?
Typically 10 to 20% of replacement reserves, right? If the deal you buy is not covering cash flow, not covering debt service, you're putting an equity reserve in at closing to draw on. The lenders are going to require you to have some kind of interest reserve fund, and then there's a variety of structures around. Anybody else? I know the VMT guys, so watch out. All right, well, yeah, thank you guys for letting me speak, and great hard work on our assets.
Please go to the website. The student membership is free. Please sign up. We would love for you to come to a luncheon. Please let us know. Our awards luncheon is next, so you get to meet everybody. But there are some IREM takeaways. Please take one as you walk out. But I'm so grateful for all of you, and thank you so much for